بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه اللهم إني أعوذ بك من علم لا ينفع ومن قلب لا يخشع ومن نفس لا تشبع ومن دعوة لا يستجاب لها آمين يا رب العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Inshallah, we don't have very many people attending today. So we are going to have a short session and we will continue from where we left off last week. But we will talk a little bit about the Islamic empire that is being established. We talked about Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu last session. Actually, we had two sessions because his era was only two years and some months, but his accomplishments were amazing because he had to deal with many issues, and we have already talked about it. It was Rida wars. People started announcing that they were prophets, they were false prophets. People stopped paying zakat, and so many issues. There were just so many issues, and Prophet ﷺ's demise made a lot of people, go back to their own their original religion, or they left Islam. So there were so many things that Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu had to deal with. But when he passed away, so then Hazrat Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he was nominated by Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq because, of course, he had the wisdom and he had seen that the way things are going, you needed an iron hand. You needed to have someone who can really take care of all the issues, actually continue taking care of all the issues. So I had, I'm sharing some of the maps just to give you an idea that in the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this dark orange, this is where Muslims were. And then in the time of first four caliphs, meaning the Khulafa Rashidin, then you see this light orange area, part of North Africa and Central Asia, and a lot of places, including part of Turkey that it is today, Armenia, and further north. And then, of course, during the Umayyad Caliphate, where Hazrat Amir Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu ruled, he brought, and during I think there was like 89 years of Umayyad Caliphate, but the first 20 years of Hazrat Amir Muawiyah, he really added a lot of places. And we see that it continued from Central Asia to further down, further up north. And then in North Africa, the entire North Africa, which was connected to Mediterranean Sea, was taken care of. And then, of course, the Spain, as we see eventually when Abbasi Caliphate came, but one of the prince went to Spain and then he established an empire. So this was by all the Umayyad people who conquered all this. So as you can see that this map shows you that how much effort Muslims had put together, but each and every one of them, each and every one of the ruler, they tried their best to expand Islam. Their main concern or their main motivation was to spread the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the rest of the world. This is little closer view. And then, inshallah, I will be sharing this. So I'll just share maybe first a couple of slides with you about Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and then we'll have a discussion. So Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu was born in 573. He was, this was the last session that we had, Abu Bakr Siddiq, and he ruled for 2 years and 3 months. Now, today we'll talk about Hazrat Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala anhu. He was born in 583. And got martyred in 644 AD. He was 61 years of age. His Khilafat was from 634 to 644 AD, which was 10 years. So 10 years is a long period of time, but when you look at the accomplishment of Hazrat Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala anhu, then you can imagine that how much he had done. Like there was no quiet time. He was always moving towards Byzantine Empire, towards Persian Empire, and he made sure that they do not come back and attack the Muslim era. Uh, Hazrat Umar Farooq also, then, like, if you can count 4, 6, 8, after 8 generations, he was also related to Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's ancestors. So Hazrat Kaab, and then, as you can see, Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam father was Abdullah, Abdul Muttalib, Hashim, and so on till Kaab. And similarly, Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala anhu was son of Khattab, Nufail, Abdul Uzza, and you keep going, and then you reach to Kaab. So around 8 generations from Hazrat Umar Farooq's side, and around 7 generations from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam side. So this is how he was related to Prophet. He was the second caliph of the Rashidun Caliphate. He reigned around, his reign was 23 August 634 AD till 3rd November 644 AD. He was born in Makkah in 583. He died in November 644, Dhul Hijjah 23 in Medina. He had 9 wives. He belonged to Quraysh, Banu Adi, but there were many clans within Quraysh tribe, and his clan, or his tribe, his sub-tribe, was called Banu Adi, which was known for arbitration among people. His father's name was Khattab ibn Nufail, and his mother's name was Hantama binti Hisham. He was tall, white, meaning, very fair complexion with a reddish complexion. So he was white and reddish. He was muscular and solid and very strong. And with his height, he was always very clear to be seen in the crowd. He was mostly bald. He had lost hair in his early youth. When he walked very quickly. So, and when he spoke very clearly, because he was expert of the Arabic language. When he hit hard and caused pain. So this was because of his bravery and his strength, that whenever he attacked on his enemy, it was very hard and painful. He spent time with his friends and enjoyed it. Before accepting Islam, he was a very sociable person. He always enjoyed his friends. He had a good time with them, and he learned to read and write. Unlike other people in Quraysh, many other people in Quraysh, they got involved themselves in trade, and they did not see any reason for learning to read and write. So he became expert of Arabic language. His father was very strict, and he made him tend to camels, and he really, whenever he was in the company of his father, he was always yelling and screaming at him. So he talks about, further down we will see that he talked about his father's strictness. He was always concerned about people's affairs and helped them. He was very interested in learning history of Arabs. So just like today we are studying the history of Islam. So he was very interested, and he learned a lot. And just like Abu Bakr Siddiq was expert in the family history or the history of Arabs, and he remembered all the tribes and all that. Similarly, Hazrat Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala anhu was also not only interested, but he had a great knowledge of Arabs history. He was involved in trade and made good money. She traveled to Syria in summer and into Yemen in winter, but for trade, and got to know many important people. So he had already created social contacts with many important people, many noble people. He was very wise. He was eloquent, well-spoken, strong, tolerant, noble. He was very persuasive, and played a role of ambassador for Quraysh. So whenever there was a need for Quraysh to send their ambassador or to their representative to other tribes or to other countries, they chose Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So this was all even before he accepted Islam. His inside and outside was always the same. So he never lied. He never tried to cheat, and whatever was in his heart, he showed it. So we will see that when he accepted Islam, and when he fought for Muslims, and when he migrated from Mecca to Medina, this was all very open. He never wanted to hide something. And we will study in the rest of his story that how brave he was. So He was also the founder of lunar calendar. There was no calendar before. People were still using Byzantine calendar and other kinds of ways to remember dates. But after 10 years, 10 Hijri, he introduced a lunar calendar, but he had to go back. So he made the first year of calendar as the Hijra. So even though the calendar started after 10 years of Hijrah, but he made it start so that there was a significant event that was related to the calendar. He introduced and implemented many political and civil administration jobs such as chief secretary, military secretary, revenue collector, police chief, treasury office, and many other official posts. So at that time, these did not exist. I mean, there was just a system, very old system that was continued to be followed. But in order to organize themselves, because Muslims needed someone to continue the administration process in a very professional and organized way. So he's the one who introduced all those the system. Then he was the first to establish Department of Investigation of Complaints against government officers. So, there was no check and balance. So he created check and balance. He was the first to introduce public ministry system, where a database of all officials and soldiers were maintained. Before, whoever fought, and they would call, hey, come and fight, and then whoever dies, and whoever wins, they get the booty. But so he created a system. He created a database. Now, how they maintained it, probably whatever means they had available at that time. Of course, there were no computers or no, written documents as such, but somehow they managed to do it. He banned any of his governors and officials to be involved in any kind of business or trade. Just imagine, in today's world, one of the most corrupt system is where the government officials start doing businesses, and they use their status, their role, to earn more money or to cheat people. So he was the one who banned all the government. If you want to become a governor, if you want to be officials of the government, then you have not to be involved in any kind of business or trade. And of course, when you leave the position, then you can go do it. Or if you decide not to take the position, then you are more than willing to not be in public ministry system. Umar radiallahu ta'ala was the first caliph to adopt the title of Amirul Mu'mineen. So before that, of course, they were Amirul Mu'mineen, but they were not called Amirul Mu'mineen. So he was the first one who was called Amirul Mu'mineen. He was also very influential during Rida Wars, as was Khalid bin Walid. So when Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu was ruling, and he sent armies to different places, Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala anhu was one of them who really fought bravely in these wars. He was always with Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and supported him till his death. And even while the funeral of Prophet ﷺ was being arranged, a group of Muhammad ﷺ's followers, who were natives of Medina, the Ansars, arranged a meeting right outside Medina. Umar radiallahu ta'ala found out about this meeting, and he took Abu Bakr Siddiq with him because he realized the delicate and critical situation, and he took Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu and Abu Ubaidah ibn Jarrah to the meeting. And then we know, and we have already discussed that what happened and how Abu Bakr Siddiq became caliph. So, and this meeting was done at Saqifa Bani Saada. When they arrived at the meeting, Umar radiallahu ta'ala was faced with a unified community of tribes from the Ansar who refused to accept the leadership of Muhajirs. So Umar Farooq played a very important role, and finally he was the first one who did bayt on the hands of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and then other Sahaba followed. He was undeterred in his belief that the caliphate should be under the control of the Muhajirs, just because Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, when he migrated from Mecca, so Muhajirs were the ones who knew everything from day one. So he was of the belief, of the thoughts that it should be under Muhajir, and that's why he made that decisions. Though the Khazraj were in disagreement, because Aus and Khazraj were two tribes in Medina who basically invited Prophet ﷺ and then really supported him. So there were arguments on both sides. But finally, Hazrat Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala anhu convinced him. Uh, Umar radiallahu ta'ala resolved the division by doing bayt on the hands of Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu. We have discussed this. The Khazraj tribe did not pose any significant threat, as there were sufficient men of war from the Medina tribe, such as Banu Aus, to immediately organize them into a military bodyguard for Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu. So there were a lot behind all these decisions. And sometimes it seems like it was easy, or it just took a couple of minutes, but it really required a lot of effort, a lot of wisdom, and a lot of talent, as you can see. Uh, Umar radiallahu ta'ala managed the administrative center in Medina in a very systematic and organized manner. He divided the entire empire into provinces. So just like the offices in the government, he also divided the entire empire so that it is manageable. So you will have governors for the provinces, and then governors would report to the Khalifa, and so on. So he really wanted to continue the leadership of Muslims in a way that is doable, that is something that people would understand. So he appointed governors for provinces, and also some assistants to help out the governors. Umar radiallahu ta'ala also made many departments and appointed officials to run it. Now, as you can see, that there were all these kind of states, or the areas. So these are the provinces: Makkah, Medina, Basra in Iraq, Kufa in Iraq, Jazeera in the upper reaches of the Tigris and Euphrates in Iraq, Syria, Palestine, which is also called Alia, Ramallah in Palestine, Upper Egypt, Lower Egypt, Khorasan in Persia, Azerbaijan in Persia, and Fars in Persia. So these were the areas where he thought that if each governor can manage the entire area and then report to Khalifa. And it really worked well, because we will see that once during the time of Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when he attacked the Persia and the Byzantines, it really helped because he had local people. By local, I mean appointed by Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala anhu, the governors who helped in moving forward. Inshallah, I think this is enough for today, because we will continue with some of the events, and I'll just give you a glimpse of what we will talk about. So there was a great famine in 638. There was a great plague, and these were all the things that Umar Farooq had to deal with. Then he created a welfare state, the Baitul Mal, and then we'll talk about the conquests of Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala anhu. As we know that he expanded Muslim empire to the areas Iraq, Iran, Azerbaijan, Armenia, Georgia, Syria, Jordan, Palestine, Lebanon, Egypt, part of Afghanistan, Turkmenistan, and southwestern Pakistan. And then we will show you the map where, what are the territories that he had conquered. We'll talk about some of the major battles. Of course, during Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu's reign, we talked about the siege of Damascus and how Muslims conquered Damascus. And then we will talk in a little bit more detail of Battle of Yarmouk. This was against the Byzantines. And then we will talk about the Battle of Qadsiya, which was against Persians. These were the two major battles which really gave ways for Muslim empire to expand. And then we'll talk a little bit more in detail about Battle of Qadsiya. And then, of course, when the very popular event of Hazrat Khalid bin Walid being dismissed by Hazrat Umar Farooq radiallahu ta'ala anhu, we'll discuss that, and we'll talk how it happened. And then we'll talk about how his wisdom really helped the Muslim empire. And then, of course, towards the end, we'll talk about how he passed away, and who killed him, who martyred him, and what was the reason, and all those sort of things. So inshallah, we'll of course, today's class was very short, so next time I will try to redo the session, and we'll start from the beginning. But inshallah, you guys who are attending, you will have the benefit of knowing it ahead of time. So maybe you can come up with some good questions, because you can study whatever we talked about today. Jazakallah khair for attending. We'll take question answer right after this. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.